Welcome to episode one of Medically Assisted Recovery. I've bent the knee to the tyranny of addiction, and I've tried multiple programs, many of which I found very useful, extraordinarily useful. But I've never tried medically assisted recovery, and I'm very curious about it. I do have one friend who has been using it and is reporting very good effects. But I wanted to get an expert on and help us understand what do we mean by medically assisted recovery. So I'm going to bring my guest on now, Dr. Gino. Hi. And
Hello.
I call you Dr. Gino and you don't mind. So I'm bringing you on and you're based in Santa Cruz, right? And you have performed medically assisted recovery more than once. I'm taking it.
I actually love the idea that you're calling it medically assisted recovery because normally in the medical world, we're using MAT, medication assisted treatment. And I
Right,
really love the word recovery. I feel like it changes the feeling a little bit.
right.
And I will say that I've supported hundreds of patients, clients that are looking at making transitions from what I'm going to say their substance of choice
Right.
to a different way of life. And what I think is really important is recognizing that it is not necessarily a long-term plan, but it's an early stabilization plan. And I think that if we can understand that this medication assisted recovery is intended to offer an opportunity for early stabilization, we'll get a lot further.
Yes, and so is detox involved in it? I'm just curious as to is that part of the medical intervention that we're talking about?
There's an opportunity for detox if that is necessary. For example, some people that when they're transitioning from their substance of choice have significant withdrawal symptoms, right? And that's one of the things that unfortunately there's more detox symptoms than is recognized by the medical complex, right? For example, they do recognize that alcohol associated detox can lead to death, right? Usually from a result of seizures. So head injuries can lead to bleeding or drowning or other kind of things. But benzodiazepines, uh, opiates, these are the type of syndromes that definitely have a known medically, I'm going to say beneficial detox. But
Okay.
there's other substances like stimulants that the
Yes.
medical complex doesn't recognize that there could be a significant detox, and that detox just
That's
leads to
interesting.
people not being able to engage, right? And so, unfortunately, some of the detox that might be required for people to make their transition isn't always supported in the medical complex. Um,
Very interesting because the stimulants are part. I run into so many people that's their primary substance of choice, and it seems very difficult for them from when I hear their stories. Um, that's the relapse seems to be more prominent or not more prominent. I shouldn't make any judgment about that, but it does seem to be a difficulty for those people. And so the fact that the medical community is not necessarily aligned with them and the detox effects, but you in the medically assisted recovery or medically assisted treatment, you provide the support that they need.
I think it's really important to understand that when I talk about the medical complex, a lot of times what we're talking about is this third party mechanism of payment, right? Because a lot of people are using insurance to help them
Gotcha.
with
Gotcha.
their benefits. And if you are admitted to a detox and your primary substance isn't one of the, alcohol, benzodiazepine, and opiates, your likelihood of receiving time to actually have that detox before getting into a different phase of your recovery
Right.
is less supported by the medical complex when we're talking about insurance payments.
Right. Interesting. Very, very important factoid for me. And also, you mentioned opiates, and the thing that I've been reading about, I never experienced. I was too old, I think, to go through the fentanyl,
Mm.
uh, which seems to have been a drug of choice, and sometimes even slipped into people without their knowing it. or the dosage is more than they were expecting, or something like that. But there seems to have been a lot of um, media attention to fentanyl, and that is that in the broad category of opiates? And
So synthetic drugs, I'm going to use the word synthetic drugs because we're not limited just to opiates. Benzodiazepines and other classes of medicines have also, presented us with synthetic drugs. And the synthetic drugs can be very dangerous and unfortunately very inexpensive to create, and then they become very profitable.
right,
And so fentanyl has been one of the biggest problems, and the reason why there's a lot of talk about supporting people in addiction today is because fentanyl has accelerated the death rate, right?
right,
People were dying from opiate use, but they weren't dying at the accelerated rate of death that these synthetic, very powerful opiates has presented. And
oh,
so it's really an exponential curve. And we've lost so many people, not because of an opiate addiction alone, but because this is contaminating other substances. And for example, the first takeoff for this accelerated death was with opiate users because it became more and more difficult for people who wanted to use heroin, right, to find heroin. And all of a sudden, everything that they thought was heroin was fentanyl, and they were unintentionally dosing high because that's what they're used to,
right.
and causing overdose deaths. And
That's
then the
tragic.
fentanyl started becoming incorporated into methamphetamine and other kind of stimulants. And
Right,
so then the next phase of accelerated death was related to stimulant disorder deaths
right,
because people thought that they were getting a stimulant, they were actually getting fentanyl laced stimulants. And what's really interesting is that they were having withdrawal effects from opiates, not understanding, right? And then they would go to get help and get drug testing. It's like, what are you talking about? I've never used that.
right,
It's because there was unintentional use. And
right,
so I actually started renaming a lot of these deaths to poisonings, right? Because when people were not intending to use fentanyl, right, they
right,
were being poisoned.
right,
Right? They were getting something that they weren't intending to use. And that's what I saw in 2022, in that range. There was a lot of young people because of the disconnection with the COVID and people not being able to socialize the same way. They were
right.
looking for a release. And one of the most popular chill pills out there is Xanax or alprazolam, and people were using this what they thought was a Xanax, and it was actually a pressed fentanyl tablet, and they were overdosing at home, right? Age 18,
Wow.
19, 20, never ever intending to use an opiate,
Right.
definitely not intending to use fentanyl, and death was very much accelerated because it could just take one time.
Unbelievable. Thank you. That's a key learning for me. I was unaware of the unintentional overdoses. I was aware of it to a certain degree, but your explanation has made me more aware of how widespread it was, and how, as you say, the poisonings were occurring with people not having the knowledge of what they were taking in. In my experience, that PCP was sometimes laced into marijuana, and so I can relate to unintentional. All of a sudden, you're experiencing something you had no idea that you were
Mhm.
going to. It wasn't lethal in my case, so my heart goes out to the people that have experienced this. We're running low on time, and I wanted to just tell the viewers a little bit more about you. This is, I think, your logo.
Yeah. So the Change Experts Academy is the newest part of my company. So Addiction Change Experts is my original company.
Ah,
Ace Medical is intended to help support clients remotely, able to supply help for addiction consultations in California, and we can meet remotely, virtually, usually by video, by telephone, and we can start a plan when you have the desire, right? So that was the intention, is that sometimes the waiting for your insurance to help you to find a doctor, to find a plan, took some time. And I know that motivation can be very short. And so if you're motivated, you can reach out and text, and I can get back to you in the same day. and we can talk about trying to get you a stabilization plan using medication-assisted recovery as soon as possible.
I didn't ask your permission to do this, Dr. Gino, but I've got your email address scrolling across the bottom of the screen. I hope that's okay. I just know that you want people to reach out and know that this is a program. This may help them. You know, one size doesn't fit all in the recovery business, and it's like finding what works for you is so important. So if you've tried something and it hasn't worked out, you know, this may be something that works for you. And if you think it's a possibility, or if you're interested in learning more, you know, write to Dr. Gino at that address scrolling across your bottom of the screen. And I wish you the best of luck with getting more in contact with more and more people that need your help.
Yeah. Well, thank you for reaching out to me. May is Mental Health Month, and mental health awareness is, I think, really an important subject that runs parallel with addiction. Yes. Because one of the things I like to tell folk that I'm encountering is that I realize that addiction is your survival behavior. Yes. And I don't want to judge you for surviving.
Thank you.
So let's help you to survive better. And so thank you for, you know, connecting with people and spreading messages of hope and trying to find ways of recovery that meets their needs.
Yes. And if you're hopeless, we're giving you some hope. That's the power of the videos that we're doing, because there is a way out, there is a life after, and it could be better than you ever expected. So thank you again, Dr. Gino. I'm going to end the recording now.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, viewers, for watching.